Facebook and everywhere else, and those who are listening afterwards, thank you so much for joining us here on the High Five. My name's Nate Manahan. In a second, I'll be joined by, probably the second sexiest person in payments. The first sexiest person was on vacation, heading down to the Florida Keys to have a little R&R with his family. And, let me bring in the person, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Danny Shard. Danny, how are you, sir, this morning?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday, High Five Nation. It's good to be on here. We're missing our counterpart, the guy that makes the show really happen. I think every Friday adds a ton of value to it and makes us all laugh. So Brian Linky's down in Florida, probably belly up to the bar already, but it is only 10:30, so he might be taking it easy this morning.
He might be. You never know. I'm drinking my new drink of choice, Goat Fuel. Highly recommended. It's because it makes you the greatest of all time. It's an energy drink. How good is that? So I'm not belly up to the pool, but I am thinking about, and we're going to start with a news story from payments. There are two. One, I just texted the story yesterday. Wall Street Journal, and we'll be talking about this next week, ran a full article on cash discounting and surcharging on the front page. So we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come. But today, I also want to talk about high-risk merchants, because that was definitely in the news yesterday, as the big news was out there that OnlyFans was going to be changing their whole strategy, and it was being pushed by Visa and MasterCard. And I thought, let's start, before we get into the branding discussion, a little something in the news today. Danny, can you talk to us a little bit about high risk? Because it was interesting. I was with two friends last night, not payments friends, and they were talking about that story, and they're like, really? Visa and MasterCard can make them change their whole model? And I was like, if they want to take Visa and MasterCard, they absolutely can. Can you talk to us a little bit about high risk and how that is in front of the news today?
Yeah, it's a different world, and those of us that are in the low risk space, kind of doing what we focus on here at PaperTech, it's somewhat foreign to us, right? The chargeback potential on high risk accounts is it's unbelievable, and Visa MasterCard has a lot of weight, right? And a lot of these businesses are propped up on the ability to take these card types. I even saw something in the news yesterday and talked to one of our partners about it in regards to possibly switching to crypto, which I could see that coming out, and that'll totally change the world as far as we know, and high risk processing. But it's quite interesting to see a platform like OnlyFans, and if you know anything about it, it's not just meant for exclusive content that's racy. It's also meant for real fans. I think it was designed for like sports athletes and cooking people and cooking shows and places like that, and to actually be able to interact on a different level with those people. And it quickly turned into the bulk of their business was racy content and creators that did some some pretty adult material. So and it really spiraled out of control from there. And I think the chargebacks grew, right? As your spouse sees that charge on your card, they start to question, and you immediately deny it, and then you get the chargebacks. And I'm sure that's part of one of the reasons why Visa MasterCard stepped in and said, look, we're going to have to change your business model. You're going to have to put this out on your site that you're not going to display this type of material anymore, or we're going to pull you from taking payments. And that would literally cripple that business. And Tumblr, I think, is a good example. I read an article about Tumblr and how whenever they were acquired by, who was it, Nate? Verizon?
Right. Yep.
They were acquired by Verizon, and they also pushed out something similar to this, immediately banned racy content, and their value plummeted from in the billions to, I think, under 10 million. So it was, I think the way they handled it could have been done better, but that's what we're seeing, and it's quite amazing how Visa MasterCard can hold so much weight on some of these high-risk businesses.
Well, and I think it brings to light, you deal with this conversation with our partners day in and day out about underwriting and risk and the assessment, that when our underwriters and our risk assessment teams are going in and looking at, what are the chargebacks, what kind of things are we taking risk on? it's a real discussion because if one, we don't want to have our merchants shut down, and we don't want to be put you in a situation where you're having to talk. So we need to know what all that business is doing, because as soon as Visa starts noticing, or MasterCard starts noticing, they may actually just shut it all down. And why compliance is so important, and understanding why working with a team like that you've put together, Danny, and making sure that we're putting the best foot forward at all times, especially for us when we're really wanting to work in this low to mid risk space, not the high risk space, right?
Yeah, it is. And the risk is it's always tough, especially for us as sales partners, right? In the market, we're the ones facing the merchants. And you have a merchant, especially a low risk business, right? A retail storefront, or maybe they took a transaction over the phone, even if it's e-commerce, but it's like low risk. I almost consider it like retail e-commerce, right? Consumer goods just sold online, minimal delivery exposure, things like that. But the reality is there's still risk in all of it. And I think it's tough for us as salespeople. And from the merchant's perspective, it's not PayProtech, it's not North American Bank Card that's holding their money. It's you that's holding my money, right? And I think that's always a tough spot for us to be in, and why it's easy as a sales representative when a merchant exceeds their parameter, they exceed that high ticket. It's easy for us to kind of go into panic mode because we immediately think, hey, we're holding the merchant's money, we're going to lose the business, right? And a lot of times, it can be a very simple conversation explaining to the merchant and explaining the risk. I've been in this business a long time. I've got a lot of merchants underneath me personally. I've never lost a merchant because of a risk issue. And I've had merchants that have had risk issues, and it's a simple conversation of explaining to them, hey, here's what happened, here's the risk, and here's why. Get us this information. We'll get this as cleared as possible, or cleared as quickly as possible. And business owners are realistic, right? They understand that for the most part. Now, when you're dealing with SMB merchants, and you're getting close to payroll, and they're almost living paycheck to paycheck, or in their case, deposit to deposit, right? They've got money going out to pay vendors. They've got payroll coming up. I mean, business is tight for a lot of small, medium businesses, which is totally understandable. And so this can really throw a kink in the chain and throw a kink in your relationship with the merchant. So don't be afraid to have those conversations and understand, risk, exists at all levels of merchant processing, not just the OnlyFans of the world, right? It's everywhere. And, we see examples of merchants that, they're in a tough spot and they swipe their own transaction on their own credit card to get their own funds, and our risk team catches it. And you don't even think about that kind of thing as you're like, hey guys, this is a dry cleaner, or this is an easy retail, towing company or something like that. Why are we holding their money? Even though the transaction was so high, it's fine. It's no risk. But then it's surprising when you hear of those certain situations. So be a little open to it. But also, if you have a situation, let us help you. Reach out to me, reach out to anybody on our team. We're constantly working with our risk department, and you'd be surprised at how many situations they're able to look at and identify and make an exception without having us jump through a bunch of hoops. So
I think these are good conversations to have. And next week, I want to talk about this. When I pulled it up yesterday, and Danny, I forgot to mention it yesterday, that's why I texted to you this morning about when the Wall Street Journal actually, like on the front page, is covering surcharging and cash discount. Kind of, it's like we get to the front of the right, and there's some interesting quotes. Yeah, it's like, hey, and it was some great quotes. So we'll pull that. I wanted to do a whole presentation on that, but I want to start on these high five just to make sure that we're covering some of the biggest news stories that are coming in the payments world, because it's relevant. It helps us all be relevant when we, walk into any type of merchant and say, hey, we're here. We want you to know, we know what's going on. We're staying forefront. We're going to make sure that you are compliant, that you're safe, and that we know what's going on in this industry. That really sets us apart, doesn't it, Danny?
it does. It really does. I mean, cash discounts has been on the forefront of everything that we've done. You've probably heard me say that countless times if you listen to any of the high five shows that we've all done. Now, whenever we get something that's in like the Wall Street Journal, in a publication like that, it validates our business in a way that you have no idea. And it's something that allows you, it puts an ace up your sleeve, if you will, to merchants. I'm asked often what to say and how to, refute this pushback. There's always questions of legality. There's always questions of my customers are going to hate it. That's always going to be something that's going to come up, especially if you're new to offering cash discounting or you're nervous because you're not sure if this particular merchant would want to offer it. It's a great article to be able to show a merchant or even just reference in your conversations with the merchant. This validates our program that we've been doing now for 4.5 years. And if you read that article, send me a text, send me an email. I'm happy to send it to you if you're not familiar with it. It states in there that only 5% of U.S. businesses, of the 8 million businesses in the U.S., are participating in this program. It's a bulk of what we're seeing come through our channel right now, right? And so we're seeing a mass push and this wave. But I've told you all before, and Nate's mentioned it as well, we're still at the tip of the iceberg on this program. And now that the Wall Street Journal is starting to publicize it even more, we're going to start hearing more and more about this. This is when the wave is really going to start growing, and the time is now to really take advantage of it. So use this as your advantage as you're talking with merchants and business owners, just to validate the program that you're pitching to them so they can feel comfortable with it.
All right, we're going to make the rest of our conversation, a little shorter today, and we're continuing our branding. As we talk about what it means to brand yourself, what it means to. Last week we talked about the branding equation, that we have to know our story, who we are, what we're selling, why we're selling. Then we want to tell our story. And how we tell our story is through our marketing. And that means everything from our logo to marketing campaigns, to sell sheets, to websites, to landing pages, to Facebook pages, to Twitter accounts, to however you choose. Maybe you're going to go on TikTok like Danny. I know he's a huge TikToker, and build his brand that way. And so as we build that brand, we create that marketing. And the base of that marketing is what I'm going to call, your art. And that's your logo, your name, and making sure that is what is when people think of you, they're going to think of a name and often an ID or a logo or something that's going to draw them in. And then they're going to think of your face a lot of times. Hey, I think of Paprotech, but then I also think of Danny and his beautiful, beautiful mug that we get to see all this often. Danny, one of the things is now we talk about this, is that you can use your logo in the payment space and a lot easier than you could have 5-7 years ago because of the capabilities of like our Go Brand Yourself campaigns. Can you talk us through that a little bit about how your logo can now appear on payment statements and on websites and applications and so many more things, so much easier than it was just a few years ago?
Absolutely. And like you said, Nate, these things have evolved over the last few years. And I wouldn't say loopholes, but I believe these things could have been going on all along had it been handled the proper way. Now, what helps us, is having our own processing platform with EPX and direct access to our sponsor banks. And essentially, prior to the last handful of years, you had to be a registered ISO, right? And I talk to partners all the time about they wanted to be an ISO when really they just wanted their logo on everything, right? They wanted their brand out there. Some of it was an ego play. Some of it was because they had a large team. Some of it was because they offered a variety of services and they wanted to have consistency around the branding that their customers saw, regardless of what solution or what program or service that they were offering them. That was a big part of it, but you couldn't do that in the merchant service world without having a hefty upfront cost to the card brands, and that's just to establish your ISO. It was $10,000, and that's just to get your BIN, if you will, through a sponsor bank and be an ISO direct with the card brands. But then the real fun begins, right? You've got 100% split now. But now you've got to invest in equipment offerings. You've got to partner with vendors. It's a lot more than just that initial upfront cost to be an ISO, right? So, whenever you start getting to those conversations with people about what that really looks like, it was never for them, and rarely, I should say, right? I've only been a part of a handful of offices over the last, 18 years that have decided to go the ISO route. And I think it was the right move for each of them for different reasons. But for the most part, in the majority of offices, it's not. We work with sales offices right now that do well over 150, 200 merchant accounts per month, and the ISO path is just not for them and what their model is, and that's fine. But the branding play is. So creating this, it really allows us to register DBAs, piggyback onto our ISO registrations to minimize that cost that you have to do with registering the card brands, and still utilize our entire program, right? So I see it as a stepping stone between being a partner powered by Paprotech and being that full-fledged ISO that comes with a hefty requirement financially, other than just the upfront branding cost. So getting to use our program, continuing to get the support that we'll provide, anything from free equipment options or just higher residual splits, bonus programs, all the equipment vendors that we work with, And then our backend, our platform, our simplified enrollment tools, everything that you need is already created for you, but everything to your merchants is that's forward facing. Applications, statements, any communication from our systems like approval emails, ticket notifications, anything like that is coming from your brand. And I think that's really important. That's where we've seen a lot of these partners go that route, is that they want that for their reps to see it, but they also, kind of like we're talking about here, they want to build a local brand that people can resonate with. And I'll mention lastly here our friends at Journey Business Solutions. Nate, you're talking about about having your brand and creating something local, and they have a tagline, and it's "Why not local?" And I love it. They put stickers on the POS systems or on the cash drawers with their numbers on them, and it's become a movement in the small towns in Texas where they're located, and they're doing great things there, but it's all promoting local business, right? And I think that's something that a lot of you can take as a cue as you're looking to kind of build your brand and build what you're trying to create in your area, is create some type of slogan, create something like that people are going to resonate with and people are going to be attracted to. And then PaperTech will power everything behind it.
I love it. It's so much easier now than it's ever been to be part of the industry, to be part of, not just be PaperTech, but to be Journey Business Solutions, to be AltPay, the premier payments provider in Oklahoma, or whatever that is, whatever that story is that you want to tell. We now are providing the tools. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be announcing, in fact, I think it'll be next Friday, we're going to announce a special campaign as we look to even build more brands and help more partners do that. Now, Danny, I asked you this question, I think 2 days ago, and so I'm kind of putting you on the spot again here, but define to us, because this is not like jumping in and branding with us. And, it does cost a little money. We'll talk about that. And if you want to learn more, you can reach out to Danny about that. But it's not always the right step. There's some people that, they're not ready for it, or maybe it's not the right place for them. They promote themselves as a broker under multiple brands. They do all these things. What is it's not always, a formula, but what are some of the things that, okay, this is when it's the right time for them to take that next step and go brand themselves with PaperTech?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, there's like I had mentioned with the ISO plan, there's a handful that I've been a part of, and each of them I think it was the right move for different reasons for each of them. And I think the same thing and the same thought goes into branding, right? Is branding right for you? I don't think it's right for every partner. I don't. Even if you're actively producing a decent amount of business. Now, it's totally up to you. It's your business. But in my opinion, it's depending on how you've built up that business, right? So we've got some great partners that position themselves as brokers. And I actually think that's a great selling tool to do that, because it allows you to show merchants that you are flexible and that your focus is on them, right? And as a broker, you can position yourself in a way that says, our business is here. We work with many of the top partners and the top processors in the country. Our focus is finding the right solution, the right company, the right pricing model for your business. We do solution fitting all the way to the processor level. That makes merchants feel really comfortable that they're not pigeonholed into one system or one offering, and that that they're going to get kind of a customized program specifically for them and their type of business. Now, even though that pitch is a great way to get buy-in from the merchants, for the most part, they might have one or two partner offices that they submit to, because, like PaperTech, for example, we have a solution to cater to almost every type of SMB merchant, right? So they're able to still partner with us. But I think as you position yourself as a broker and say, we're going to find the right processor, the right solution, the right system for you, and then your name's on the statement, it doesn't seem like you're a broker. It actually seems like you're the processor, right? So I think in those scenarios, I think there's a reason to not brand. But then again, I think there's a reason to brand in several different ways, especially if you offer a variety of different services. That's one of the biggest things for me in branding. Two things. If you offer a variety of solutions, say you offer web dev, phone services, any type of marketing, any type of lending options, merchant payment services, anything like that, you want to have everything under one umbrella, right? So regardless of what service or solution that you offer the merchant, they're seeing XYZ brand on it and it's consistent. I think that's a great reason to brand. I also think if your goal is to build a team, if you've got 2, 3+ sales reps and your goal is to build to 5, to build to 10, to build to 50, right? Whatever that goal is, if your goal is to build a team and have sub reps working underneath you, maybe even create different channels in different areas of the country, which we have several partners that have done, branding is absolutely something that you should do. And the reason for that is, in my opinion, is this industry is competitive, it's saturated, and it's very easy for a rep to come in and identify that you're being powered by PaperTech on the back end. So thanks for showing me the ropes. I'm going to go and find a PaperTech, or I'm going to try and go direct to PaperTech, which we wouldn't allow to happen without your permission. But being able to have yourself branded and everything that those reps see from the get-go is your brand, take PaperTech out of the conversation, you can really do a good job of tightening that up and more or less eliminating, if you can, that potential go-around, right? Recruiting and bringing in sales reps is a revolving door, coming in, going out as they identify solutions, as they identify things they like and things that they don't. And if you can brand yourself and have yourself positioned in such a way, you're going to minimize that revolving door as much as possible.
All right. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more, but if you want to reach out to Danny, email him at danny@papertech.com. He will walk you through so much more and how great this program is for our partners and our, new partners and those who are out there just really beginning to establish themselves in this payment industry. We'd love to walk you through how we can brand you and help you grow your brand, your business. Danny, as I'll bring both of us up here, obviously, Brian's not with us today, but we like to have a little, just a little bit of encouragement. We got 2 Fridays left in August. Then we've got a Labor Day weekend after that. We're kind of, we're getting close. We're going to be talking about getting to the eve of the fourth quarter in September. But what do you say to our partners as we get excited about, there's so many good things happening. I mean, our industry is on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and says some positive things. Life's good, but let's go. What do you say to our partners?
Amazing. I mean, if anything, it should pump us up, right? Validate what we're doing. What we're doing is right. And if you've ever questioned it, that definitely helps you. But school's starting, summer is over, and here in Colorado, we're getting into fall. And in sales, we work hard, play hard. So work hard, finish this week strong, and get out there and have some fun this weekend. I'm going to be in a little town called Silverton, Colorado, doing the Alpine Loop on my 4-wheeler. If you get a chance, check it out. It's an awesome spot, and the views are crazy. And I'll try to have Nate put up some pictures next week for us.
Oh, there we go. I would love to do that. I will be going to the state fair here in Indiana with my kids, and my son has his first high school cross-country meet tomorrow, and he has to get up at 5:30 a.m. How much good is that? Can't wait till he can drive. Let's go. Thank you guys, everyone. Let's have a great weekend. Thanks for being part of the High Five Nation. Danny, I'll see you next week. High five, everybody.
See you, everybody.